British
unseen family footage of Diana's childhood. Fiona Foster reports.
Diana, the little girl who grew up to become the most famous and photographed woman of the 20th century. Who, 30 years later, as a young woman relishing a new chapter in her life, would meet a sudden and violent death. Diana, the big sister, destined to lead a strange, short, and not always sweet life. Diana's younger brother, Charles Spencer's memories of their childhood are as vivid as ever. He keeps many of Diana's possessions at their family home, Althorpe, in Northamptonshire. Their father, Johnny, kept a meticulous photographic record of his children's early lives.
Posing for the camera. You see, she loved all that. Always had a natural way. Even there, you know, surrounded by all my rather grubby-looking school friends, Diane looking rather elegant on the side.
Yeah, she always got kind of hand on hip. She always looks pretty
relaxed and
together.
The camera.
Yes.
And here, I mean, I never enjoyed it.
We've been given exclusive access to the family's library of photographs and home movie footage, which clearly illustrates the closeness of the two younger Spencers as they were growing up.
And that's a lovely picture.
She liked being a bridesmaid.
She did. I can't remember how many times she did it. Not that often, to be honest.
Do you remember much about the day?
This day, I can't really. I mean, I remember, yeah, I think I was going through a sort of cheeky phase myself.
You look quite cheeky.
Yes, slightly out of control.
Diana was born the third daughter to the late Earl Spencer and his wife Frances. Her parents longed for a son and heir to carry on the Spencer name. When Diana was nearly 3, Charles was born. Their two older sisters, Jane and Sarah, were soon away at boarding school. That fact, coupled with their closeness in age, meant that the two of them were natural playmates who stuck together. Like all big sisters, Diana liked to mother Charles.
Now, you and Diana weren't brought up from your early childhood here at Althorpe. That was in Norfolk, at Park House. What was life like there for you both?
It was great, actually. Park House was the best place to grow up. It was beautiful, and it was big. We didn't realise how privileged it was. I mean, there were staff there, and there was a huge garden and a swimming pool and tennis court, and very, very lovely environment for anyone to grow up in. We didn't realise how lucky we were. But it was very, very good fun for us. I'd say it was among the happiest years of my life, certainly.
Diana's earliest years were straight from the pages of Enid Blyton, swimming, dancing and caring for her numerous pets in an idyllic rural setting. But this picture of well-heeled family life in the country was shattered when their parents divorced. Their mother lost the bitter custody battle that followed and moved to London. Suddenly, Diana and Charles were only allowed to see her at weekends.
Now, your parents went through an acrimonious divorce when you were young. That must have cast a long shadow over the years that followed.
Well, I suppose so. I mean, it's difficult to analyse it, though, because I didn't know any different. But, I mean, in the holidays, we did go between the two parents' houses. But in a way, I think it was quite a balanced upbringing then, because my mother lived in much more modest surroundings than this, and I think that was probably a good thing.
Do you feel it had a big effect on the woman Diana turned out to be?
It may have had an effect on how she turned out as a mother, because she was so attentive as a mother. And that may be because she felt she needed to really hang on to that family. But as a woman generally, no, I don't imagine it probably had a huge effect on her.
When their grandfather died in 1975, their father inherited Althorpe House. With their sisters away at school, it would be Diana and Charles who were uprooted from their friends and childhood haunts in Norfolk to go and live in this imposing house on its rambling estate.
So it was a wrench to come here?
It was a huge wrench. We had a very relaxed upbringing, despite the sort of privileged background. And so coming here was actually quite a shock, because suddenly, after my grandfather's death, you know, we both had titles, and the staff here called us by that, whereas before we'd just been Charles and Diana and had a much more easygoing lifestyle, I think.
Now, I've heard that she used to go down these stairs at night and dance in the hallway. Is that true?
She was a very keen tap dancer. She was a very keen dancer altogether, actually. But the entrance hall has a wonderful marble floor. So for a tap dancer, it has wonderful acoustics, you see. So she'd spend hours practicing there. And I think one of the early disappointments of her life was realizing she was going to be too tall to be a proper dancer. But she really did adore it. It was one of her passions, actually. I mean, I suppose everyone wonders what their life might be if they had divorced parents and they'd stayed together. So I have no idea. It might have been much worse, because it may have been so unhappy together. So, but I think overall we were very privileged in our childhood.
Charles remembers Diana going off to boarding school. Lessons were never her strong point, but she was good at sport, picking up several awards, and her caring nature towards her friends and animals won her praise. He watched her gradual transition from a quiet, sweet-faced girl to someone who effortlessly attracted attention.
As she started to become a pretty young woman as opposed to a girl, she got some confidence then, and that started to open her up quite a lot. And I think that then she realised she had a knack for just being life and soul of the party, really. Not in a superficial way, but just people really enjoyed being around her.
That knack she'd developed was about to lead her into a life she could never have imagined. Desperate to start her adult life in London, she persuaded her father to buy her a flat in Coleherne Court, South Kensington. It was an address which for a few frenzied months was to become almost as well known as Buckingham Palace.
How did you find out that she was seeing the Prince of Wales?
Well, I sort of knew she'd been invited to various places, you know, Balmoral or whatever. But, you know, to be honest, I know it sounds very blasé, but it just wasn't very interesting to me. I mean, I didn't think it would go anywhere, and I just assumed it was just something that would pass.
But Charles was wrong. Diana was seeing more and more of the Prince of Wales and had, as her brother remembers, fallen deeply in love with him. At the same time, the press had fallen head over heels for Diana. As far as they were concerned, she was the one. She was the princess they wanted. Diana's brother was at school at Eton when he first experienced the frantic media attention his sister was beginning to generate.
The first time she had been publicly seen with Prince Charles, she then came to take me out for lunch from school. And I could not believe all the cars behind her, all the press cars and motorbikes chasing her. And at that time we all thought, oh, how very funny, and what, you know, something completely different. But I suppose when you think about the end, you know, 16 years later, it's quite a sort of revealing moment that she had that sort of cortege with her. Even then, all the cars and motorbikes chasing her and taking pictures of her, and it went from being a joke to being intolerable, really.
In February 1981, the prince won his princess and the press were gifted theirs. At just 19, Lady Diana Spencer agreed to become the future Queen of England and was officially engaged to His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales. July the 29th, 1981, a day set aside for national celebration.
Here is the stuff of which fairy tales are made. The prince and princess on their wedding day.
Charles Spencer recalls seeing his sister with new eyes that day.
Well, I'd been in to see her just before she'd left for the cathedral. And I remember thinking that, you know, for the first time, I realised I had a very beautiful sister. She had makeup on, and she very pale makeup, and she looked incredibly serene and happy and beautiful. And the dress, which, you know, I mean, it's a timeless classic. She looked wonderful, actually. And then I sat next to her after the wedding at lunch in Buckingham Palace, and she was so relieved that it was done, and just very keen to get that tiara off. But I just remember thinking it was great. It was lovely, sort of, to see your sister so happy.
As a family, do you think you realised that her life and indeed all your lives were about to change forever?
No, we didn't have a clue, really, to be honest, and I don't think anyone did. I mean, we had no concept that from July the 29th, 1981, Diana would be launched on an extraordinary life. So I had no idea. I mean, I really thought she'd get married and then she would go and do worthy things and hopefully be happy. But I don't think even the most sort of, the person gifted with the most foresight could have possibly guessed what an impact she would have and what a point of interest she'd become around the world.
Charles had watched his sister transformed from childhood playmate to Princess of Wales. She seemed to immediately strike a chord with the general public, who gave her encouragement and support. Her family watched as her popularity grew.
Coming next, saying goodbye to Diana and the longest walk of his life.
That walk was just a nightmare, really. Worrying about the boys and thinking, this is all so horrendous.
That's in a couple of minutes.
In 1997, Diana had embarked on a romance with Playboy film producer Dodi Fayed. The couple's every move was devoured by the world's media, hungry for the smallest detail of the princess's new relationship.
Did she talk to you about her summer romance?
No, not at all. Never mentioned him. I'm not taking anything away from him, because I'm sure he's a lovely bloke, but I really, I think it was just a summer romance for both of them, and I don't think it was going to go any further at all.
Charles Spencer was to see his sister for the last time on her 36th birthday, July the 1st, 1997, which she celebrated by attending a charity function in London. 2 months later, she and Dodi had stopped off in Paris for the night on their way back from a holiday in the south of France. Their trip together had been a paparazzo's dream, and the attention wasn't letting up. Hoping to bypass the cameras, Diana and Dodi left the Ritz Hotel by the back entrance. Their Mercedes set off on the short journey to Dodi's flat. They never reached their destination.
How did you hear about Diana's death?
I was in South Africa in my house there with my 4 children, and the telephone went in the middle of the night. And it was the manager who runs this place got a call, and he said, "Oh, we've heard that there's been a car crash in Paris and Dodi Fayed's dead, but your sister's just injured. Just thought you should know straight away." And then I went downstairs and I flicked between the various satellite news stations, and they were saying much the same, actually. They were saying that she'd been seen walking away. And I thought, well, I better stay up and just see how bad it is. And then my sister Sarah rang me and she said, "Look, I'm afraid it's really bad news. It looks like she's got brain damage." And I was totally shaken. I couldn't believe it. And then I rang my sister Jane, whose husband worked for the Queen. And then I heard him go, he was on another line in the background, and he went, "Oh no." And then my sister Jane said, "I'm afraid that's it. She's died." And it was an incredible shock. I sat up, obviously, in shock for the rest of the night. And then my children came running through in the morning. And I said, "I've got some appalling news for you. I'm afraid Aunt Diana's been killed." And one of my daughters, who was aged 3 or something at the time, just smiled at me. She said, "Not in real life, Daddy." And I said, "Yes, I'm afraid it was. It is true." And I turned on the television, and at that moment, they were pulling the Mercedes out of the tunnel. I remember wandering out the night before the actual funeral into the gardens around Kensington Palace and just seeing these acres of flowers and all these people in a sort of stunned atmosphere, just sort of contemplating what had happened.
Royal protocol demanded that Charles, William and Harry should accompany the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Edinburgh as they walked behind Diana's coffin. It's a walk that's seared into her brother's memory.
When do you think it really hit home that she'd gone?
I think when I saw her coffin on the day of the funeral, on the gun carriage, the shock of seeing that, you know, it was all so, by that stage, so public, and it was so appalling. That walk was just a nightmare, really. That's the worst experience of my life, was walking behind my sister's body to Westminster Abbey. I mean, just appalling. Worrying about the boys and thinking, you know, this is all so horrendous and so public, and having to keep your eyes straight ahead and not look either side. I can still hear the horses' hooves and the grinding of the gun carriage, and see the coffin in front and the crunch of our steps, and yeah, and the bellows. I mean, people were screaming and bellowing, and oof, horrible.
The Spencer family agreed that Charles should be the one to pay tribute to their sister at Westminster Abbey.
Did the speech come easily when you were writing it then?
Very easily. I was going to do a sort of classic eulogy where you just say really nice things, and I thought, well, that's really not right. And then I went to bed, and I'm sure that anyone who's lost someone very close, you don't sleep at all well, because I suppose you're in shock. And I woke at, I think it was about 4:30 the next morning, and I wrote it in an hour and a half. I've never found anything easier to write in my life.
It was an electrifying speech, a touching tribute to the sister he loved, but also a speech devastating in its honesty and emotion.
I stand before you today, the representative of a family in grief, in a country in mourning, before a world in shock. She would want us today to pledge ourselves to protecting her beloved boys, William and Harry, from a similar fate. And I do this here, Diana, on your behalf. We will not allow them to suffer the anguish that used regularly to drive you to tearful despair. And beyond that, on behalf of your mother and sisters, I pledge that we, your blood family, will do all we can to continue the imaginative and loving way in which you are steering these two exceptional young men, so that their souls are not simply immersed by duty and tradition, but can sing openly as you planned. I would like to end by thanking God for the small mercies he's shown us at this dreadful time, for taking Diana at her most beautiful and radiant, and when she had joy in her private life. Above all, we give thanks for the life of a woman I'm so proud to be able to call my sister, the unique, the complex, the extraordinary and irreplaceable Diana, whose beauty, both internal and external, will never be extinguished from our minds.
When spontaneous applause broke out both inside and outside the Abbey, it was clear that Charles's pointed remarks at the media and the royal family had found an echo in the feelings of the crowd. 4 years on, his tone is a little different.
I think what I was really saying in the speech was that this was a real woman with her own real issues to deal with. And I was very keen in the speech not to picture her as someone who was perfect, but as somebody who, despite being very human, had done their best. And that's what I was really saying.
But you were angry in that speech.
I wasn't angry, I was just trying to keep it together. It was emotional, but I was trying to just hold it together so I could get through it, because I knew how difficult it would be. So it probably came across as anger, but it was just me trying to get from the first word to the last one without breaking down.
But the stuff about the blood family, about influencing the boys now Diana had gone, and how important the blood family was in that. I mean, that was pretty pointed.
Well, it can be seen as that, but it could also be seen as just saying, look, you know, you've lost your mother, but we're still all here to do what we can on her side.
And do you think that their souls have been allowed to sing openly, as you put it, since her death?
Considering that they lost their mother 4 years ago, I think they've done fantastically well, and I think they'll carry on now, and they'll be more than fine. I think they'll leave a very positive impact on the world. People do say about William that he looks very like his mother, and I think that obviously that's a compliment. But what I really hope is that people don't expect him to just be a male copy of her and to behave exactly the same. He's got to make his own way in life, and if he has got some Spencer blood, he won't be backward in coming forward. He will make his own mark.
After her funeral, the hearse carrying Diana's coffin made the poignant journey from London to her family home at Althorpe. Charles Spencer had wanted his sister's final resting place to be somewhere safe, somewhere that she'd loved and felt at peace. In a private family ceremony, Diana was buried on an island in a lake amid the rambling grounds of Althorpe House.
What is it that you miss most about your sister, do you think?
I miss the cycle of being in Diana's life, of, you know, she would get massively close to you and confide in you, and you'd have a lot of laughs, and then suddenly something would have gone wrong, and then you were out. But I took that all in good humour, because at the end of the day, she had such a pressurised life that if she couldn't let off steam with me or my sisters or my mother or whatever, then who could she let off steam with?
She's become one of the most famous women of the 20th century. She's become this iconic figure. How hard is it for you to find your big sister in all that?
I mean, she'll always be my sister to me. I mean, she's never going to be a princess in my eyes. Diana was complex, and she has proved to be irreplaceable, and I bet she will continue to be.
Earl Spencer talking with Fiona Foster. The Diana exhibition at Althorpe continues until August the 31st, the anniversary of her death. Blistering Britain.
Main problems of exposing